I transmigrated into a female supporting character in a BL novel. Logically speaking, tonight being our wedding night, my billionaire husband Gu Yanli should have left me behind to go to the hospital and take care of his true love, Shen Yu. I was just enjoying the peace and quiet, ready to count my money alone in the empty room, when the bedroom door was suddenly slammed open with a loud crash. Click, click. The man who rushed in immediately locked the door with 3 deadbolts and dragged a heavy solid wood coat rack over to firmly block it. Gu Yanli's clothes were disheveled, his usually aloof and ascetic face covered in cold sweat, like Tang Sanzang who had just escaped from the spider cave. Before I could even speak, this crown prince of the capital circle took 2 running steps and, whoosh, dove straight into my bed. He wrapped himself up into a giant cocoon, only revealing a pair of bloodshot, terrified eyes, fixed unwaveringly on the door. Turn off the light. His voice trembled, carrying a despair as if he were about to be claimed by a malevolent spirit. Lin Sui Sui, turn off the lights, don't make a sound, please. I was still clutching my phone, completely stunned. Gu Yanli, what's gotten into you? Isn't Shen Yu waiting for you at the hospital? He's not at the hospital. Hearing that name, Gu Yanli suddenly jerked under the covers as if his tail had been stepped on. A pale hand shot out from the quilt, gripping my wrist tightly. He's downstairs, right downstairs. He drugged my drink. The doctor said that kind of drug makes you lose the ability to fight back. What he's holding isn't a thermometer at all. It's a chain, as thick as a finger. He wants to lock me in the basement. Gu Yanli grew more agitated as he spoke, his eyes reddening, and he actually choked up. It's too terrifying, Lin Sui Sui. It's too terrifying. I'm straight. I have $1 trillion family fortune to inherit. Am I supposed to perform a tragic farewell with a man like in Farewell My Concubine? Boom, the plot summary in my mind instantly collapsed. Watching the man before me, who would rather dive into the villainess's bed and tremble to protect his innocence, I suddenly understood. This wasn't a scumbag tricking someone into marriage. This was clearly a straight man accidentally stumbling into a BL novel, a total tragedy. No wonder in the original book he always had a sinister look on his face. Turns out he was traumatized by those wolfish sisters-in-law. At that very moment, footsteps echoed in the corridor. Tap, tap, tap. They were light and slow, but in the deathly silence of the villa, they were as clear as if someone were stepping on the crown of one's head. Gu Yanli instantly held his breath. He lunged over. Clinging to me like a startled octopus, he buried his head in my chest. His body stiff as a steel plate, his teeth chattering. He's here. That madman is here. Footsteps came to a halt at the door. Then, the sound of fingernails lightly scratching the door panel followed. Scratch, scratch. The sound of nails scraping against expensive solid wood sent shivers down the spine, raising goosebumps all over. Yanli, brother, Shen Yu's voice came from outside the door. It was no longer the pure and soft tone described in the original book, but carried a chilling excitement and stickiness. I know you're in there. Why are you running? The doctor said that in your current physical condition, if you don't get the injection in time, you'll feel terrible. Open the door. Let me help you. Okay, I'll be very gentle. This voice was exactly like that of a deranged killer in a horror movie toying with prey trapped in a cage. Gu Yanli trembled even more violently. He grabbed my pajamas, looking at me desperately, tears genuinely welling up in his eyes. Lin Sui Sui, save me. I won't go out. I'd rather die than go out. If I get dirty, I won't be whole anymore. The old men of the Gu family will use that as an excuse to strip me of my inheritance rights. I don't want to get lost in the garden. I want to be a father, even at a time like this. He's still thinking about shares and carrying on the family line. What a ruthless man. But I suddenly realized a serious problem. If Gu Yanli is really captured by Shen Yu tonight, following the BL novel trope, what comes next is an endless, locked room scenario. What about me, as the supporting female character and beard wife? Not only would I not get a single cent, but I'd also be kicked out, and in the end, die tragically on the streets as per the plot. No way. Gu Yanli's physical freedom is my lifelong meal ticket. We absolutely cannot let that damn pervert succeed. Click. The door lock was being turned. The deadbolt we thought was foolproof was as good as useless in front of Shen Yu. He has a spare key. The heavy solid wood coat rack emitted a piercing scraping sound as it was being pushed open bit by the force from outside. In that moment, Gu Yanli's expression looked as if he had just witnessed Sadako crawling out of the well. He closed his eyes in despair, 2 clear tears streaming down his face. It's over. My life is done. The door slowly creaked open. A cold, chilling wind rushed in. Carrying a sickeningly sweet perfume scent, the first thing to appear was a pale, ghostly hand, and sure enough, it was holding a gleaming set of metal chains. Immediately, Shen Yu's face, flushed with a sickly hue, peeked out from the crack in the door. He was smiling, the corners of his mouth stretched into an eerie curve, his eyes fixed unwaveringly on the lump under the covers. Yanli Gidge, I've caught you. Gu Yanli let out a short, mournful cry, burying his face tightly against my chest. As if he wished to suffocate himself in my embrace, I glanced at the pervert at the door, then looked down at the billionaire CEO in my arms, who seemed on the verge of shattering. A sudden, inexplicable rage surged within me. So you think you can bully the honest ones? Huh, forced buying and selling, is that it? Trying to steal a man on my turf? Have you asked? The crystal ashtray in my hand? I took a deep breath, with one arm wrapped around Gu Yanli's trembling shoulders. I patted his back as if comforting a frightened golden retriever, then, I lifted my head and tossed back my newly styled wavy curls, eyes sharp as lightning, fixed directly on the pair of sinister eyes at the door. I gathered my energy, sinking it deep into my core, summoning every ounce of the confidence I had used in my previous life to confront demanding clients. Get out! That shout, full of vigor, was incredibly penetrating. It not only stunned Shen Yu, who was about to step in through the door, but even Gu Yanli in my arms trembled from the shock, his tears scared back. Who are you trying to scare by pretending to be a ghost in the middle of the night? I sneered, pulling out the self-defense stick I had originally kept under the pillow to guard against Gu Yanli, and flicked it open with a sharp snap. I yanked the blanket aside, pulling down Gu Yanli's disheveled clothes a bit to deliberately reveal that small red mark on his neck, putting on an irritable expression of someone whose desires had been left unsatisfied and interrupted. Can't you see we're busy here, mister? Gu is at a critical moment. If you scare him into something happening, can you afford to compensate for his happiness for the rest of his life? Shen Yu froze. The sinister smile on his face froze at the corner of his mouth, a flicker of disbelief flashing in his eyes, as if he had seen some kind of monster. What are you saying, Brother Yanli? Clearly what? I cut him off, grabbed the priceless crystal ashtray from the bedside table, and hurled it fiercely toward the door. Bang! The ashtray smashed against the doorframe, shattering into pieces. Sharp shards of glass splattered across Shen Yu's face, cutting his delicate features, and beads of blood instantly welled up. Do I need to ask you to leave? I narrowed my eyes, my tone icy and menacing, like a lioness guarding her prey. This is my marital home, and he is my lawful husband. If you want to stir up trouble, take it outside. But here, if anyone dares to touch my cash cow, if anyone dares to lay a finger on my man, I'll make sure he walks in standing up and gets carried out lying down. Shen Yu covered his face, looking at me in disbelief, then glanced at Gu Yanli, who was hiding in my arms without making a sound. The madness in his eyes gradually gave way to a hint of fear. After all, in the original story, Lin Sui was nothing but a useless crybaby, but now, the self-defense baton in my hand was pointed right at his nose. Shut the door behind you, get out. Shen Yu ultimately didn't make it inside, under the dual threat of my self-defense baton and ashtray. This originally lawless and obsessive male lead, clutching his bleeding forehead, shot me one last venomous glare before reluctantly leaving. But I never expected that the real trouble was only just beginning. 3 hours after the crisis was resolved, Gu Yanli still held me tightly, refusing to let go. This billionaire tycoon, who usually walks with an air of authority, now clung to me like a frightened koala. Even when I went to the bathroom, he would tug at the corner of my clothes, stand guard at the door with his back turned, and mutter nervously, "Don't close the door, I'm afraid someone might climb in through the window, Mr. Gu." I sat on the toilet, unable to hold it in any longer. Could you please step out first? I'm about to burst. No. Gu Yanli stood with his back to me, his voice carrying a weak, post-crisis exhaustion. Lin Sui, haven't you noticed? Whenever I touch you, that voice disappears. I was taken aback for a moment. What voice? System? Gu Yanli pointed to his own head, his face pale, his eyes filled with deep exhaustion. That voice that's been forcing me to fence. Looping in my head, if you don't uphold male virtue, you'll be annihilated. It goes silent as long as I have physical contact with you. As he spoke, to prove it to me, he tentatively let go of the corner of my clothes he had been clutching. The next second, Gu Yanli shuddered all over, his pupils suddenly contracting as if he had donned a mask of agony. Hiss, he gasped sharply, grabbing my hand again like lightning, his face instantly turning from pale to red, then from red to ashen. "Did you hear that?" he asked me, another layer of fine sweat breaking out on his forehead. I shook my head. "All right, you can't hear it." Gu Yanli wiped his face, grinding his teeth. The moment I let go, it screamed in my head, "Host detected deviating from plot, punishment imminent. Please immediately go out and locate the target for conquest. But as long as I hold on to you, it shows, signal blocked, plot correction failed." I get it now, so not only am I the villainess, but I'm also Gu Yanli's personal human Wi-Fi jammer, specially blocking that BL plot that drags people down. Looking at Gu Yanli's face, which, though haggard, was still infuriatingly handsome, and then at his hand that was gripping me tightly, my damned capitalist DNA stirred. I leisurely washed my hands, pulled out a tissue to dry them, then extended a finger and waved it in front of him. "President Gu." I flashed a standard business smile, my tone gentle as a hunter waiting for prey to step into the net. "You know we're getting divorced. Right now, I'm your off-the-books personnel. Providing round-the-clock shielding service counts as extra technical support. That'll cost extra, add it." Gu Yanli didn't hesitate at all. He directly pulled out a black gold card from his pocket and slapped it into my hand, his movements so bold it was almost thrilling. "Here's the supplementary card for you, with unlimited credit. And the pin is your birthday. Starting today, whether it's eating, sleeping, or attending meetings, you must stay by my side every step of the way. If you dare to run away," he gritted his teeth, revealing a fierce expression, "I'll die right in front of you, and then I'll donate all my inheritance to stray dogs, so you won't get a single penny." What a vicious threat, but I like it. Early the next morning, a scene that left all employees of the Gu Corporation building in utter shock unfolded. The notoriously cold-blooded and woman-averse CEO, Mr. Gu, actually brought his newlywed wife, rumored to be someone he couldn't stand the sight of, to work with him. Not only did he bring her, but they were also holding hands, fingers tightly intertwined. The way he held on was as if he didn't hold tight, Mr. Gu would be snatched away the very next second. Mr. Gu, Mrs. Gu." As the receptionist bowed, her eyes nearly popped out of her head, and the coffee in her hand almost spilled onto the keyboard. Stumbling along in my high heels, I was dragged by Gu Yanli. "This isn't showing affection, this is clearly him walking me like a dog." "Gu Yanli, slow down." I pinched his palm in dissatisfaction. "Hurry up." Gu Yanli didn't even look back, his face tense, his eyes scanning the surroundings like radar. This entire building is full of potential conquests set by the plot. Just now, the security captain was looking at me strangely. He never used to smile at me before. As soon as we entered the private elevator, Gu Yanli immediately pressed me into the corner, hiding behind me while keeping a wary eye on the elevator doors, as if they were the entrance to hell. "Lin Sui, no matter who comes in later, you have to stand in front of me. Even if it's my own father, you have to block him for me." Ding, the top floor executive office has arrived. As the elevator doors opened, a rich aroma of Blue Mountain coffee wafted through the air. Immediately, a man in a form-fitting suit, his waist swaying like a water snake, approached. The devoted second male lead from the original story, Gu Yanli's capable special assistant, Kevin, setting, a cool, aloof, and abstinent elite bottom, but becomes a seductive bottom in front of Gu Yanli. "President Gu." Kevin's voice was melodious and lingering, with a hook at the end that made my skin crawl. Holding a cup of steaming hot coffee, he gazed at Gu Yanli with a dazed look, completely ignoring me, who was being shielded by Gu Yanli. "You didn't reply to my message last night." Your subordinate was worried all night." As he spoke, he walked to a spot just one step away from Gu Yanli. Suddenly, without any warning, his left foot tripped over his right. She glided smoothly into Gu Yanli's embrace, the coffee cup in her hand accidentally tilted, aiming precisely at Gu Yanli's trousers. This was the legendary prelude to a wet play. According to the original plot, Gu Yanli should have been unable to dodge due to the system's control, instinctively caught her, got scalded, and then Kevin would cry while trying to help him take off his trousers to treat the wound. "I've missed you so much." Gu Yanli's reaction was even faster than his. The moment Kevin lunged forward, Gu Yanli acted as if he had seen a biological weapon. With a speed that defied the laws of physics, he leaped backward abruptly. At the same time, he gripped my shoulders tightly, lifting me like a shield and holding me in front of him. Slap! The coffee cup crashed to the floor, sending scalding liquid splattering everywhere. Kevin lunged and missed, sliding 2 meters across the expensive handmade rug before landing in a comical, frog sprawl, position right at my feet. The scene was instantly awkward. Kevin lay on the floor, lifting his head in disbelief, his eyes brimming with tears, looking utterly pitiful. That look seemed to be accusing a heartless man. Mr. Gu, why did you dodge? I didn't mean to. You're fired. Gu Yanli hid behind me, only poking his head out, pointing at the man on the ground with a face full of terror. His voice trembling. Lin Sui, did you see that clearly? When he fell just now, his pinky finger actually tried to hook onto my belt buckle. Gu Yanli's face was livid with anger, his hands trembling as he gripped my shoulders. It's disgusting. How did such a depraved person manage to get into the company? Security. Call security. Get him out of here. And this carpet? Throw it all away. Kevin was dumbfounded. I was dumbfounded too. I looked down at Kevin on the floor, his little finger that hadn't been retracted in time indeed forming an awkward hook shape. Did you hear that? I sighed, looking sympathetically at this elite male supporting character from the original book. Mr. Gu says you make him extremely uncomfortable. Will you leave with dignity on your own, or do you need help to do so? As Kevin was being dragged away by security, he was still screaming pitifully, Mr. Gu, I am completely loyal to you, and the plot made me do it. The sound echoed through the hallway, sending cold sweat streaming down Gu Yanli's back. What's wrong with this world? Gu Yanli buried his head in my shoulder, like a big, withdrawn mushroom, his voice filled with endless grievance. Why is even Kevin gay? He used to talk about soccer with me. I even gave him a jersey. I patted the head of this homophobic CEO, feeling deeply sympathetic. It's truly tragic. It's like your best buddy suddenly wants to swear brotherhood in the peach garden, but with a different script, and even throws in a line like, I've been waiting for you for 10 years. Who could possibly handle that? To calm the overly startled President Gu, the subsequent high-level board meeting became even more bizarre. More than 20 executives sat upright, not daring to make a sound. At the head of the conference table, Gu Yanli flipped through the documents with an expressionless face, his aura cold and imposing, commanding respect without anger, that is. If you don't look at his hand hidden under the table, tightly interlocked with mine, I was forced to sit on an extra chair placed beside Gu Yanli, like a mascot, regarding the overseas acquisition case for the next quarter. Gu Yanli's voice was cold as he spoke, unconsciously squeezing my fingers. It seemed only by confirming I was still there could he maintain his composure. The executives below exchanged glances, their eyes darting wildly between Gu Yanli and me. They were probably all thinking, is President Gu this doting on his wife, holding hands even during a meeting? What new trend of wealthy family affection is this? Just when I thought I could muddle through the day without incident, Gu Yanli's body suddenly stiffened, the hand holding mine tightened abruptly, the pain nearly making me cry out. A cold sweat instantly broke out on his forehead, and his face turned as pale as paper in an instant. What's wrong? I leaned in and whispered, sensing that something was seriously amiss. Gu Yanli's pupils trembled violently, as if he had just witnessed the end of the world. With trembling hands, he raised his phone and held it out to me. The screen displayed a memo interface, but what he pointed to was the system task that had just exploded in his mind. He mouthed the words to me, the system has issued a punishment task. I focused my gaze and saw the line of text Gu Yanli quickly typed on his phone, detected that the host maliciously expelled key male supporting character Kevin. Triggering Level 1 Punishment Mechanism, Mandatory Task. By 20:00 tonight, you must complete the bathroom wrestling interaction with the personal bodyguard captain. Failure penalty, engage in a bold public interaction with the bodyguard, and be forced to live stream for 1 hour. Following Gu Yanli's desperate gaze, I looked toward the bodyguard captain standing at the conference room door. He was a burly man, standing 195 centimeters tall, with muscles bulging all over his body and arms thicker than Gu Yanli's thighs, a face full of rough features, with a thick beard, looking like he could kill an ox with a single punch. Gu Yanli stared at the bodyguard, his Adam's apple bobbing with difficulty. Ugh, he couldn't hold back, letting out a dry heave. The entire hall fell into dead silence. The executive who was presenting his work was so startled he dropped his pen. Mr. Gu, was my proposal that bad? Gu Yanli didn't care about his image anymore. He turned his head, his eyes rimmed red, gripping my hand tightly, his voice tinged with a sob. Wife, tonight, I want to take a bath. You must come into the bathroom with me. if you don't go in, I'll be left in there with that black bear spirit. I looked at his expression, as if he were about to shatter into pieces, then glanced at the head bodyguard by the door who was picking his nose. Not only did Gu Yanli feel like throwing up. I want to throw up too. This damn system, isn't its taste a bit too heavy, thanks to that night in the bathroom, where I endured humiliation for a great cause, for the sake of 30 billion in inheritance. Gu Yanli's bottom line was preserved. Of course, the process wasn't pleasant. Can you imagine it? That Mr. Gu, who commands the winds and rains in the business world, was wearing a pair of SpongeBob SquarePants swim trunks, to prevent any accidental exposure. Huddled in the farthest corner of the bathtub, he was taking a lightning-fast shower at triple speed while desperately clutching one of my hands, and me, I was sitting on the toilet lid, holding a financial magazine, and had to keep shouting at the head of security outside who kept trying to break the door down. Get lost, Mr. Gu is scrubbing his back. He doesn't need your help. The 1.9-meter tall burly man outside the door looked as pitiful as a 200-pound child. But ma'am, the system, no, my professional ethics tell me that there's a patch of dead skin on Mr. Gu's back, and I must scrub it off for him. What the hell kind of dead skin is that? In the end, I sent that bodyguard to the African branch to mine overnight, citing snooping on the boss's privacy as the reason. Although Gu Yanli nearly drowned in the bathtub that night from fright, but the good news is, as long as I hold on to him, that damn system's mandatory task will be invalidated. The bad news is, he's now completely latched onto me. Lin Sui Sui, is this tie too flashy? In the walk-in closet of the Gu family's old mansion, Gu Yanli stood before the mirror, his face ashen. He pointed at the dark red tie, his hand trembling. This color, the system says it's seductive red. Wearing it will give me a plus 50 favorability boost from the target at tonight's banquet. After saying that, he threw the tie to the ground as if it had burned his hand, and even went to stomp on it a couple of times. Burn it, get me that black one, the most old-fashioned one. Tonight is the 80th birthday banquet of the Gu family's patriarch. This is also a super famous scene from the original book, The Battle of the Titans at the High Society banquet. According to the plot, the four main characters of the capital's elite circle gather together. This is not only Gu Yanli's social death scene, but also the beginning of him completely becoming the caged bird of the top bosses. I looked at the man in front of me, who had wrapped himself up tightly and even wished he could wear a bulletproof vest inside, and sighed. Mr. Gu, do you really have to go? I have to go. Gu Yanli fastened his buttons all the way to the top, tightening them so much he nearly rolled his eyes. The old man still holds 20% of the shares, for the money. For justice, I must go. He turned around, grabbed my hand, his eyes filled with a tragic determination as if he were about to blow up a bunker. Remember our code. If I squeeze your left hand, it means someone is trying to touch me. If I squeeze your right hand, it means someone is trying to spike my drink. If I squeeze both hands at once, he swallowed hard, his voice trembling, that means someone is about to force themselves on me. You grab a bottle and swing at them. I'll take responsibility if anything happens. At 7 in the evening, the Gu family's old mansion was ablaze with lights, luxury cars gathered like clouds, and the air was filled with the scent of perfume and the rustle of elegant attire, but I didn't feel the slightest bit of joy, only a chilling coldness. As soon as we got out of the car, Gu Yanli tightly linked his arm with mine. Note, it was him linking arms with me. He practically glued himself to my side, that 188 centimeters tall frame hunched over. Like a blind man afraid of taking a wrong step. Lin Sui Sui, get closer. Gu Yanli's teeth chattered, his gaze sweeping across the banquet hall in terror. I can hear it, all these voices. It's too loud. The system narration was throwing a party in his head. I could sense something was off too. The moment we stepped through the door, the once bustling banquet hall suddenly fell silent for an instant. Immediately after, over a dozen gazes, fierce and predatory, instantly locked onto Gu Yanli like searchlights, greedy, blatant, carrying an indescribable excitement. I'm going to be sick. Gu Yanli's face turned deathly pale, his body stiff as a steel plate, as he quickly whispered into my ear the system's inner thoughts he had overheard. The one on the left holding the red wine is a famous collector in the circle. He's thinking that the lines of my wrist are so graceful, worthy of being kept as his private art collection, forever locked away in a secret room. The one on the right in the black suit is my business rival. He's planning to get me drunk tonight and then tattoo his name on the inside of my thigh, and that award-winning actor playing the piano in the corner, help, he's imagining sending me to a deserted island, dressed only in a white shirt for him to admire. Gu Yanli's voice grew softer and softer, until it was almost a wail. Have these people lost all sense of law and order? I'm a domineering CEO, not someone's limited edition real-life accessory. I felt a chill run down my spine. This was no high society banquet, it was a hunting scene straight out of Animal World, and Gu Yanli was the plump little lamb surrounded by a pack of wolves. As soon as the words fell, the crisis descended. A young man dressed in a white suit, with an innocent and harmless appearance, suddenly rushed out from the side. I recognized him. The illegitimate son of the Gu family's collateral branch, the top-tier green tea in the original story, and also that little wolf dog cousin who wanted to overstep his bounds, with Gu Yanli. Cousin, long time no see, I've missed you so much. The little cousin's voice was sickeningly sweet, holding a glass of champagne in hand, yet his feet slipped in an extremely bizarre manner, relying on momentum, his entire body, like a boneless mollusk, tumbled at a tricky angle straight into Gu Yanli's arms. If this lunge succeeded, Gu Yanli would be marked for the entire evening. Moreover, according to the laws of BL novels, after this fall, the two are bound to become physically entangled, then be surrounded by onlookers, and finally, Gu Yanli would have no choice but to take responsibility. Gu Yanli's pupils contracted sharply, but he couldn't move. The system's coercive force immobilized his body, leaving him no choice but to watch as his excited cousin came crashing toward him. Wife, he let out a desperate roar. In the blink of an eye, for my 30 billion, for my lifelong meal ticket, I held up that heavily embroidered haute couture gown. 0.01 seconds before that punk lunged at Gu Yanli, I sidestepped, lifted my foot, and sent him flying. Bang, a dull thud. My long legs, trained in Pilates, unleashed astonishing power. That cousin, who was supposed to fall into the domineering CEO's embrace, flew through the air like a kicked sandbag, tracing a graceful arc. Then, with a loud crash, he slammed right into the 7-tier champagne tower beside him. Glasses shattered everywhere, wine splashing in all directions. My little cousin lay sprawled in a sea of broken glass, his hair disheveled, his suit soaked, and his whole person utterly dazed. The entire hall fell into dead silence. Everyone was stunned. Only Gu Yanli, looking at me, had an expression that seemed ready to kneel down in worship on the spot. If the situation weren't so inappropriate, I suspect he would have hugged my leg and cried out, "Spare me, great heroine." Oh dear. I withdrew my leg, elegantly smoothed my skirt, and covered my mouth with a look of surprise. Cousin, how could you be so careless? Was the floor too slippery? Or is your cerebellum underdeveloped? That cousin lay on the ground, pointing at me in disbelief, his finger trembling. You kicked me, Mrs. Gu truly has impressive skills. A sinister voice suddenly rang out, the crowd parted, and the collector walked over, with gold-rimmed glasses and a refined yet villainous air. He held 2 glasses of red wine in his hands, his gaze dark and fixed on me as if I were an inconvenient stumbling block. Apologies for the fright, Mr. Gu. A hypocritical smile curled at the corner of the collector's lips as he offered one of the glasses to Gu Yanli. Have a drink to calm your nerves. I prepared this especially for you. Gu Yanli was so frightened that he hid behind me, clutching the fabric of my dress, his hands trembling like he had Parkinson's. Don't drink it. I looked at the glass of wine. Its color was slightly darker than usual, clearly not right. Take another look at the collector's hypocritical face. These people really don't know how to appreciate a favor. I took the wine glass. A glint of triumph flashed in the doctor's eyes. Mrs. Gu is indeed sensible. Now, Mr. Gu, please, crash. I flicked my wrist. The entire glass of red wine, not a drop spared, splashed directly onto the collector's expensive face. The crimson liquid dripped down his gold-rimmed glasses and flowed into the collar of his white shirt. An utterly wretched sight. The collector froze. The entire hall of guests gasped in shock. Sorry, my hand slipped. I looked at the doctor's instantly contorted face and said coldly, also, my husband is allergic to alcohol. If you're trying to harm him, I can just call the police to arrest you. This glass of wine, consider it as me toasting you on his behalf. Is it good? Would you like another? 2 people were taken down in a row. Those restless people around finally grew fearful, looking at me, who stood shielding Gu Yanli. The woman in the red dress with a murderous expression in her eyes was filled with apprehension. They probably had never seen such a vicious female antagonist with this kind of approach, not fighting over men, only fighting men. Gu Yanli finally regained his composure, watching my back as I dominated the scene. His spine suddenly straightened. At this moment, he was no longer the helpless Tang Sanzang meat to be slaughtered at will. He had Sun Wukong by his side. He took a deep breath and leaned out from behind me, straightening his tie. He picked up the host's microphone from beside him. These people had thoroughly provoked the last shred of dignity he held as a straight man. While everyone is here, I have an announcement to make. Gu Yanli tightly held my hand, our fingers interlocked, and raised it to show everyone. His voice, amplified by the microphone, echoed throughout the venue, carrying a sense of desperate resolve. I'm a coward. And I have no backbone to prevent any accidents. Just yesterday, I bought myself a billion yuan personal accident insurance policy. The beneficiary is only my wife, Lin Sui Sui. The whole room erupted in an uproar, but Gu Yanli paid no heed. He swept his gaze over those who were eyeing him with hostility. The collector, the arch-rival, the award-winning actor, gritting his teeth. He spoke each word with precision and weight. So, starting today, anyone who dares to come within a meter of me, touches me, or hands me any suspicious items, my wife will automatically assume you're trying to harm me to inherit my assets. If she defends herself against you, it's to protect our family property. Did you get it? I was speechless. What a way to eat soft rice with a hard bite. What a case of the fox borrowing the tiger's might. But I have to admit, this move of protecting family assets really forms a perfect logical loop. Watching those people with ashen faces, all backing away in fear, I felt for the first time that earning those 30 billion was actually quite satisfying. Before the banquet even ended, we made our escape, like fleeing a zombie siege. Gu Yanli grabbed me and dashed into the underground garage, jumping into that Maybach. As soon as we got in the car, Gu Yanli collapsed. You scared me to death, Lin Sui Sui, you're my hero. He buried his head in my shoulder, nuzzling like a big golden retriever seeking comfort, completely losing the commanding presence he had when announcing the inheritance earlier. The way that award-winning actor looked at me just now, it felt like he was trying to see right through me. Ugh. However, that sigh of relief hadn't even fully settled. The luxury car, which had been cruising steadily on the Cross River Bridge, suddenly jolted violently. Immediately after, the steering wheel locked on its own, and the accelerator was pressed to the floor automatically. The numbers on the speedometer instantly shot up from 60 to 180, zzz. A sharp, piercing electric current suddenly erupted from the system in Gu Yanli's mind, and even I faintly heard that grating, teeth-gnashing screech. Warning, warning, the plot has severely deviated. The host has rejected all mission targets. Initiate forced correction protocol. Create a car accident. Throw the host toward the male supporting character's vehicle, on the opposite lane ahead. A modified black SUV was charging forward like a wild beast. That was another madman from the original story, the racing demon. Damn it, Gu Yanli's face turned deathly pale as he saw death approaching. At this critical moment, he abruptly unfastened his seatbelt. I thought he was going to jump out of the car to escape. After all, he's a coward who fears death. But the next second, he turned sideways and threw himself over, using his not-so-strong body to shield me tightly and completely beneath him. Lin Sui Sui, cover your head. Bang! A tremendous crash echoed through the night sky. The world plunged into a sea of crimson. After the deafening crash, the world was swallowed by a brief, suffocating ring in my ears. The dust from the deployed airbag choked my lungs, searing my airways with pain. I felt something warm and sticky drip onto my face, sliding down the bridge of my nose, carrying a strong metallic scent. It was blood. It was Gu Yanli's blood. He still held the position he had lunged into to shield me, pressing me firmly beneath him. The Maybach's front end was completely deformed, wedged against the guardrail of the Cross River Bridge, teetering on the edge. Below is the rolling river. With just one more move, we would fall into the water, car and all. To feed the fish, Gu Yanli. My voice trembled as I tried to push him away to check his injuries. Don't move. He suddenly let out a low growl. He raised his head. That usually well-maintained handsome face was now covered in scratches, with a wound on his forehead so deep the bone was visible. Blood smeared over one of his eyes, but in his remaining good eye, there was a fear deeper than death. Lin Sui Sui, hold on tight to me. His teeth were chattering, his voice trembling with tears. The system says, The driver who hit us is that crazy racer, he's heading this way. He said he's going to drag me out of the car, and give me emergency mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. No, I can't let him succeed. That's my first kiss, about to die, and still thinking about this, but I couldn't laugh, because I heard the sound of leather boots stepping on broken glass, crunch, crunch, step by step, drawing closer. Outside the car window, a man in black motorcycle gear appeared, his unruly silver hair dyed defiantly, the fourth male supporting character from the original book. A mad race car driver. At this moment, he looked at the bloodied and battered Gu Yanli inside the car, his eyes showing not a trace of concern, but rather a gleam of excitement and fervor. Yanli, the racer, leaned against the shattered car window, extending a hand, his tone infatuated. See, I told you we were destined, only I could make you stop. Come, give me your hand, I'll take you away. That woman, gone is gone. He doesn't care at all whether I live or die. He doesn't even care whether Gu Yanli is in pain. He just wants to turn this lofty crown prince of the capital's elite circle into a shattered doll in his trophy collection cabinet. Get out. Gu Yanli let out a furious roar. With a surge of strength he didn't know he had, he grabbed the half-empty water bottle beside him and smashed it hard into the racer's face. Don't touch me. I think you're disgusting. The racer froze for a moment. Then his expression darkened. He reached out to forcefully pull open the car door. Yanli, you've been very naughty. It seems I need to teach you a lesson. Bang! I kicked open the already deformed car door. The door slammed heavily into the racer's knee, causing him to grunt in pain and stagger back a few steps. I crawled out from under Gu Yanli, my hair a tangled mess and my face smeared with blood, most of it Gu Yanli's. Still gripping the self-defense stick I hadn't let go of, I stood blocking the car door. Like a mad lioness, glaring fiercely at the man who towered over me. Think you can take him away? I sneered, wiping the blood from my face. First, ask if I agree, and besides, he just said he thinks you're dirty. Can't you understand human language? The racer glared at me with a vicious look. You're looking for death. Just then, the distant sounds of police sirens and ambulance sirens finally rang out. Red and blue flashing lights pierced the night sky. The racer shot a resentful glance at Gu Yanli, spat on the ground, and said, Yanli, you can't escape. We'll meet at the hospital. With that, he mounted his motorcycle, revved the engine, and vanished into the darkness. Gu Yanli finally let out a sigh of relief. He looked at me, the light in his eyes gradually fading, until his head tilted to the side and he completely passed out in my arms, before fainting. This guy's hand was still tightly gripping his own belt buckle. He was genuinely afraid someone might take advantage of his unconscious state to do something inappropriate. Half an hour later, Gu's private hospital, VIP top floor ward, Gu Yanli sat on the hospital bed, his head wrapped in bandages, and 4 drip hanging beside him, his face blank and dazed. Though he had narrowly escaped death, his mental state was clearly on the verge of collapse, because the system had not let him off the hook, bzzzt, even from a distance. I could sense the madness of the system in his mind. Gu Yanli clutched his head in agony, sweat pouring down like rain, murmuring unconsciously, Stop it, please, stop reading. I glanced toward the door of the hospital room. The place was already packed to the brim. The collector, the rival who wanted a tattoo, the racer who had just fled, all the targets from the capital's circle, like sharks drawn to the scent of blood, had gathered in the hospital corridor. Lin Sway Sway. Gu Yanli suddenly grabbed the hem of my clothes. He lifted his head, and in those once arrogant eyes, there was now only a lifeless gray. I can't take it anymore. The system says that because I rejected all the assigned targets, the plot is about to collapse. It wants to forcibly control my body, to make me walk out and kneel before them. If that happens, I'd rather jump out of the window right now. He meant it. At that moment, I saw true resolve to die in his eyes. This damn BL novel. This damn forced love system has driven a perfectly straight man to the brink of despair. Why was he born to be coveted by these people? Why, just because he's the protagonist, does he deserve to be toyed with in every way? I just wanted to focus on my career and be a tacky rich person, but this damn plot had to force this melon to twist. An uncontrollable rage shot straight to the top of my head. I looked out at the pitch-black night outside the window. Then back at the fragile man in front of me who seemed like he'd shatter at a touch. A wild thought sprouted in my heart, growing like weeds. Gu Yanli. I gripped his hand in return, looking into his eyes as I spoke each word deliberately. Do you want to break free from them completely? Do you want to make this system shut up? Gu Yanli was taken aback for a moment, a flicker of life stirring in the dead ashes of his eyes. Yes, I dream of it every day. All right, I took a deep breath. A flicker of desperate madness flashing in my eyes. Then listen to me. Isn't the system determined to assign you tasks? Isn't it determined to label you as the protagonist? Then let's break its fundamental logic. Gu Yanli looked at me blankly. What logic? I stood up and walked to the door of the hospital room. Click. I locked the door from the inside. Swish. Draw the curtains. In the dim light, a man and a woman alone. The atmosphere suddenly grew tense and ambiguous. I tossed my bag aside, kicked off the mud-stained high heels, and stepped closer to the hospital bed. Gu Yanli panicked. He shrank back, stammering, wife, what are you doing? Your eyes look like you want to devour me. Devour you? I sneered coldly, placing one knee on the edge of the bed. My hands braced on either side of him, trapping him between me and the headboard, looking down from above. His posture was extremely aggressive. Gu Yanli. The system has set you as the protagonist in this BL novel, destined to belong to someone. I reached out and lifted his chin, my fingertips tracing over his bobbing Adam's apple. But what if we actually consummate our marriage? What if we forcibly turn this BL novel into a romance story? As long as you belong to me, to a woman, the system's BL logic chain will break. This is a dimensional strike. Gu Yanli's face flushed bright red in an instant. Even the tips of his ears were dripping with blood. He clearly didn't expect a woman like me, who usually only talks about money, to be so bold. He looked at me, his eyes darting away, his breathing growing rapid, taking advantage of someone in a vulnerable moment. He muttered softly, yet his body betrayed him. He didn't push me away. Instead, he instinctively grabbed my waist, not the act of a gentleman. He swallowed again, his voice hoarse beyond recognition, carrying a hint of hidden anticipation. But if you are Lin Sui, it's a loud sizzle. Gu Yanli's system seemed to sense the impending tragedy and emitted a sharp, piercing alarm. Warning, warning, detected that the female lead is attempting to perform an unauthorized operation. This does not align with the core values. This is a BL novel. BG is not allowed. Stop immediately. Stop immediately. Gu Yanli frowned in pain as the system attempted to control his body to push me away. His hands trembled, veins bulging, locked in a desperate struggle against that coercive force. Get out. He gritted his teeth, growling at the air, his eyes bloodshot. This is my wife, legally. I have the certificate. I can do whatever I want. Seeing his pained yet resolute expression, I steeled my heart. Enough with the nonsense. Just kiss her first. I abruptly lowered my head and sealed those incessantly chattering thin lips. Boom, the world fell silent. The noise in Gu Yanli's mind abruptly ceased. The moment our lips touched, I felt his body tremble violently. His previously rigid, resisting body instantly softened, only to be followed by an even fiercer counterattack. This was no romantic, idle drama kiss. These are two people toyed with by fate, making their only counterattack in a desperate situation. It is the instinct of a drowning person grasping for a floating log. Just as we were inseparable, at the moment the system was about to completely crash, the window of the hospital room suddenly shattered. This is the 18th floor, but someone from outside, using specialized climbing tools, shattered the tempered glass. Crash! Glass shards flew everywhere. A dark figure crashed through the window, accompanied by an eerie, bone-chilling laugh. Brother Yanli, you're not being good. I whipped my head around. Shen Yu stood amidst a field of shattered glass. He was no longer that delicate, fragile little white flower, dressed in a blood-stained white lab coat. He held a sharp scalpel in his hand. His eyes were hollow and frenzied, staring straight at me. Filth. He tilted his head and raised the knife in his hand. It's better to just cut it off. The scalpel sliced through the air, carrying a chilling whistle as it thrust straight toward me. Shen Yu's originally innocent and harmless face was now twisted like a demon crawling out of hell. As long as you're gone, the plot will correct itself. Brother Yanli will be mine alone. He'll hold me and cry. He'll carve my name into his skin. A lunatic. A complete and utter lunatic. I wanted to dodge, to grab the lamp beside me and smash it at him. But it was too late. Not just because Shen Yu was too fast, but also because zzzzzzz, a high-frequency electric current sound, sharp enough to pierce the eardrums, echoed through the air. Warning, detected that the core plot character, Shen Yu, is on the verge of collapse. activating the final defense mechanism, eliminate the interference source. Lin sway sway, an invisible, immense force pressed down from above. I couldn't move, not even a finger could I lift. I could only watch helplessly as that sharp scalpel grew infinitely larger in my pupils. Is it ending? My 30 billion inheritance hasn't been secured yet. My 8 male models haven't. I can't accept this. The sound of a blade piercing flesh. Warm liquid splattered across Shen Yu's face, and onto my eyelashes, but I didn't feel any pain, because a slender, powerful hand was gripping the sharp blade, holding it fast. Blood dripped from that hand, drop by drop, onto the white bedsheet, instantly staining a large patch crimson, a shocking sight. It was Gu Yanli. Shen Yu froze. He maintained his stance of thrusting towards me, staring in disbelief at the man before him, whose head was wrapped in bandages yet had caught the blade bare-handed. Brother Yanli, you hurt yourself for this woman. Your hands are meant for signing billion-dollar contracts, for playing the piano. How could you do this for a mere pawn? Gu Yanli's face turned deathly pale. That was the precursor to excessive blood loss, and the weakness after the effects of the medicine had worn off. But his eyes no longer held the fear, evasion, or grievance they had before. Instead, they burned with a fury that seemed capable of consuming everything. This was the true nature of the crown prince of the capital's elite circle, a ferocity that had been suppressed throughout an entire book, forcibly dulled across a million words. Get lost. Gu Yanli's thin lips parted slightly, uttering a single word. There was no hysterical shouting. The voice was not loud, yet it sent a chill to the very bones. Shen Yu's hand trembled, and he took a step back in terror. System, control him quickly. He's breaking character. Punish him now. The crackle of electric current in the air grew even more piercing, as if the system itself were struggling in its death throes. Gu Yanli's forehead bulged with veins, his body trembling violently from the excruciating pain, cold sweat mingling with blood as it dripped down. Yet the hand gripping the blade remained utterly motionless. In fact, it was tightening inch by inch. His knuckles turned white, emitting a series of sharp, cracking sounds. I am Gu Yanli. He stared into the void, as if looking at the filthy system that controlled his fate, enunciating each word clearly. Not the plaything you've imagined in your minds, my wife. No one but me can touch her. Bang! A crisp sound of metal snapping. Gu Yanli actually broke that scalpel with his bare hands. Boom! It was as if something in the air had completely shattered. That was the sound of a worldview shattering. Gu Yanli suddenly raised his foot and kicked Shen Yu squarely in the chest. This kick held no mercy, far more brutal than the one I delivered at the banquet. Shen Yu flew out like a ragdoll, crashing into the wall with a loud thud, completely knocked unconscious. Meanwhile, outside the hospital corridor, a sudden wave of deafening noise erupted. Holy shit, why am I in a hospital? And why am I holding flowers? Why are they chrysanthemums? Why am I wearing this see-through fishnet outfit? Help, can someone give me a coat? Did I just try to go in and kiss Mr. Gu? Am I a pervert? Ugh. The various male supporting characters who had been blocking the doorway all snapped back to their senses at once. The collector looked at the other scalpel in his hand, screamed, and threw it into the trash can as if it were a hot potato. That rival who wanted to give Gu Yanli a tattoo, looking at the tattoo sticker in his hand, still pink, immediately slapped himself twice. The racer who had just returned on his motorcycle was squatting on the ground, questioning his life, unable to understand why he was interested in a grown man. The world has been reassembled. Those men who had their intelligence lowered by the system and were forcibly implanted with tasks have finally regained their lost minds. This absurd BL novel has collapsed. In the hospital room, it was so quiet that only the sound of a heartbeat could be heard. The blood on Gu Yanli's hand was still flowing, but he didn't care in the slightest. He slowly turned around and gently touched my cheek with his intact, uninjured left hand, carefully, trembling with fear, as if touching some rare treasure that had been lost and found again. Lin sway sway. His voice was hoarse, tinged with a hint of relief after surviving a disaster. And his eyes were frighteningly red. I can't hear it anymore. That voice has finally vanished. I don't have to go on missions anymore. I'm free. My nose tingled, and tears nearly fell. I was about to say something touching, like, I'll protect you from now on, but the next second, this guy's true colors were revealed. His knees gave way, and he collapsed right onto me, burying his face in my chest, bursting into tears with a loud wail. Honey, my hand hurts. I'm bleeding so much. Am I going to die? If I die, Are you going to spend the money on male models? Wah wah, call a doctor quickly, call a female doctor. I was speechless. Give me back my moment of emotion. Never mind. Looking at his pitiful state, I sighed and turned to embrace the man who had just saved the world. It's all right now, Gu Yanli. From now on, no one will dare to force you. 1 month later, Gu Corporation, top floor office. I stared at the mountain of documents piled before me, sinking into deep contemplation, not work files, but property transfer deeds, stocks, real estate, funds, antiques, even a private island he owned overseas, and 51% of the absolute controlling stake in the Gu Group. What is Gu Yanli up to? If not for the date, I'd think he was writing a will. Sign it. Gu Yanli sat across from me, peeling grapes. He's in top form right now. Dressed in a sharp suit with his hair perfectly styled, he's regained that aloof, ascetic CEO look from before. Except for the way he looks at me, sticky as sponge sugar on sweet potatoes, he peeled a grape and eagerly offered it to my lips. Why, I swallowed the grape, pointing at the pile of documents with a slightly trembling hand. We're getting a divorce. Is this considered a breakup fee? What are you thinking about? Gu Yanli wiped his hands, walked around the wide desk, and came to stand behind me. He leaned down, encircling me along with the chair in his arms, resting his chin on top of my head. The familiar scent of cedar enveloped me. Although the system is gone, and that Shinyu has been sent to a mental hospital, Gu Yanli's voice was low, carrying a trace of lingering fear and obsession that only I could understand. But who knows if another transmigrator might show up someday, or if this world might develop some other bug. Only when the money is in your hands can I feel at ease. He grabbed my hand, holding the pen, and pressed it down on the transfer document. Lin Sui Sui. He chuckled softly in my ear, his warm breath brushing against my earlobe, sending a tingling sensation through me. What if one day I get controlled again, or if I stop obeying? Remember to use this money to hire the best bodyguards in the world, and buy the strongest rope. Even if you have to break my legs, lock me by your side. This is the only task I give you. I turned my head and looked at this man who once was so homophobic it drove him to the brink, but now wished he could meld himself into my very bones and blood. The love in his eyes weighed heavier than those 30 billion. I smiled. I threw down the pen, hooked my arm around his neck, and sealed my mark on his lips. Deal, Mr. Gu. From now on, I'll be in charge of your bottom line, but breaking your legs won't be necessary. I leaned close to his ear and said with a mischievous smile, after all, keeping your legs has other uses, like kneeling on a washboard. Gu Yanli was taken aback for a moment, then laughed so hard his chest shook. As you command, my dear wife. Outside the window, the sunlight is just right. This world has finally returned to normal, and our story has only just begun. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget